Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're here gathered today on the traditional lands of the Pueblo, Navajo, and Apache peoples. For thousands of years, this has been a place where knowledge has been shared and wisdom passed down through generations. We honor those who have stewarded this land throughout centuries and recognize the continued relationships between the indigenous peoples of these lands. I extend my gratitude to the four directions that bring us together in this sacred space of learning today. I'm Michael Lechuga, I'm the co-chair of the Communication and Journalism Department, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2025 Convention for the Communication and Journalism Department. Thanks for being here to celebrate with us and with all of these fine folks on this milestone today. Graduation ceremonies aren't just formalities, they're important rituals that mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of something new. Today we recognize the perseverance, hard work, and remarkable achievements of each graduate before us today. Can I get a round of applause? But I'd like to acknowledge that nobody reaches these milestones on their own. For many of us, at least in my life, there's many hands and hearts that have contributed to making my life possible, and I think that that's true for a lot of folks standing up here. For one, I'd like to recognize our communication and journalism faculty, who's sitting behind me. Because of their teaching, mentorship, and dedication, they make our department outstanding. Would you please recognize? I'd also like to honor our department's amazing staff. The truth is that without their hard work today and pretty much throughout the entire year, their patience and commitment, our department would be nothing. So they put in tremendous effort, and I'd really like to recognize those folks. They're wearing white shirts with logos written on them. So if you see them sometime, just make sure to say thank you. I appreciate that. We have many student workers and graduate student volunteers that have helped make today's ceremony possible. So I'd like if we could also Like many universities, our department comprises of part-time instructors and teaching assistants. Without these teaching assistants, and particularly true in our department, we wouldn't really have an undergraduate curriculum. So we really owe a big debt of gratitude to these folks as well. So can I give one more? This year, I'd like to also take a moment to recognize several groups of students whose journeys at this stage include what I think are pretty unique challenges and triumphs. Would our first generation college graduates please stand? You've blazed trails where... First generation college graduates. So these students have blazed trails where perhaps none have existed before, there were challenges that were insurmountable. These folks are creating new possibilities, and you should be very proud of yourselves, and for those who will follow in your footsteps. I'd also like to recognize our students who come from rural communities. These folks have come quite distances, literally and figuratively, and we'd really like to honor the contributions that they make to our department. If we have any veterans or active service duty members, we'd like to honor your dedication, serving your country while pursuing your education. Thank you. I'd like to recognize students who speak English, perhaps as a second language or even third language. Students that speak English. Your contributions bring multilingual abilities that enrich our community immensely. We really like to recognize those folks. And finally, if you've worked full-time while pursuing your degree, would you please stand? So the determination of these students and their capacity to balance their work responsibilities demonstrates the academic excellence that our department really appreciates. So thank you all for your commitments. What makes you and them truly special is precisely this diversity of experiences and backgrounds. Our university doesn't just serve one type of student, it creates space for our campus community. There are others who have been integral in the success of our students. I'd like to recognize the parents and guardians of our students. Would you please rise? Your support, encouragement, and sometimes that necessary tough love has been foundational to the folks who have seen sitting up here. I'd also like to recognize if there's any spouses, partners, wives, husbands, children, or other direct family members of our graduates in the audience. Would you please stand? Again, for many folks, you're the support network that helped them get over the finish line. Finally, I'd like to just recognize all extended family members for graduates, grandparents, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, and other friends. Go ahead and stand up and you get recognition also. It really does take a community, and I think that's what we're trying to demonstrate here today. So as we celebrate, just remember that education is not just about the degree that you receive. It's about the person you've become through this journey and the communities that you've helped to build along the way. Each of you carries forward not just knowledge, but the unique spirit of UNM and our department. We embrace diverse perspectives and celebrate these experiences, which I think are pretty unique because we're in New Mexico. So congratulations. Class of 2025. Next. And now I'll be handing over to Gwyneth Dolan, Professor of Practice in our department, who will be introducing today's speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, tall person. Our chair is delightful. I am so happy to be here today and so lucky to have this little role in our ceremony because this is one of the happiest days of the year for these graduates, for your loved ones, and also for us because we live vicariously through them every year, taking joy and pride and all of the credit for their accomplishments. Everything they do that's great we'll take credit for the rest of their lives. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Andrea Sanchez, representing the recipients of the PhD, the highest degree we grant. Andrea is an autoethnographer from San Diego who has already accepted a position teaching communication at CNM when they leave here. Andrea.
There's an activity I do at the beginning of my courses called the 6-word memoir. It is an exercise where students create a 6-word long sentence or list of adjectives that they feel most appropriately describes their life or identity. As many icebreakers can often feel like an awkward procedural exchange of fun facts, the memoir activity works best when the instructor also shares about themselves. When I began teaching in the CJ department, I found myself surprisingly, incredibly stressed by what I wanted to tell my students about myself. Thus, my thought process went approximately as follows. I should tell them I'm a Californian, so they know I'm a transplant, and I say the word like as often as I do. I'll tell them my astrological sign, Taurus, so that they know that I'm cool. Then I'm a graduate student, so they know that I too am swamped with deadlines, that I have anxiety, as many of them do, that I'm queer to justify my sense of style, and that I am sometimes an artist, so they know that I have hobbies, and school does not, in fact, take all of my time, just most of it. As I continued my time navigating the ever-precarious balancing act that is being a grad student, teacher, and at times tutor, restaurant worker, barista, whatever covers the bills, I have found that the justification for my list of adjectives has changed a little bit, but we'll revisit this in just a moment. My period as a graduate student has been one of immense growth, self-discovery, and kinship building. But to be quite candid, these 4 years have also had their moments of fatigue, overwhelming stress, and conflict. I've learned from my readings and time teaching interpersonal communication that long-term relationships often carry periods of both elation and tension. The question becomes, what do we do to maintenance the relationship to ensure that it is sustained while we also take care of ourselves as individuals? UNM is the place where I first began accessing gender-affirming care. It's a place where I have been able to convene with my peers for hours at a time to commiserate over our writing assignments, collaborate on better teaching strategies, and remind each other when to set boundaries with our work to better prioritize our well-being. It is the place I learned what area of communication I wanted to be ingrained in, how to navigate tough and rewarding mentor-mentee dynamics, and how to effectively survive academic conferences. It is also the place where I have lost some friendships, had at many points a nearly non-existent work-life separation, and where I asked myself, can I really do this while looking over our degree requirements at 2 in the morning, many mornings. The work of a graduate student feels imposing and never-ending. However, the work we're doing and have done is important. As learners, researchers, and generators of critical knowledge and labor, what we are doing is essential, especially during a time of increasing anti-intellectualism, shock and awe from various external entities, and structural intimidation. We have continued to not only perform what is asked of us as candidates, but also excel as scholars of communication. Communication is an area of study that has become imperative to maintain in order to continue developing strategies for culturally conscious, compassionate, and ethical ways of navigating the world. My time in this program has illuminated the indispensability of communication. In every form it presents itself, communication is a method of preserving and documenting identities, languages, and experiences that have become increasingly stigmatized, censored, and even attempted to be erased from public existence. As I complete my 6-word memoir with you all, my justification is as follows. Californian, because it's important to know that I grew up in a place by the ocean and that I miss it every day. That because I am not from here, there will be things I cannot relate to my students about who have grown up in New Mexico, and that this difference is okay and important. Taurus, because while I do identify with being stubborn, it is not an excuse to not accept critique, and that I must be willing to change for the better. Anxious, because students deserve to know that someone who has mental illness can not only succeed in academically challenging settings, but that they deserve to. Queer, because we exist, and no amount of fear-mongering will erase us or the fact that we are worthy of survival, dignity, and community. Artist, because committing time to practices which instill joy is a radical act of self-compassion. And graduate, because every single one of us has achieved an incredible accomplishment by making it here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Now I have to go write my own 6-word. Next will be Elizabeth Secor, who is representing our journalism and mass communication majors. Elizabeth is a former editor of our New Mexico News Board. She was a New York Times mentee this year, and she was awarded a New Mexico Local News Fellowship at the Albuquerque Journal, where she starts in 2 weeks. Elizabeth, come up.
Hello all. If I start speaking really fast during this, I'm sorry. I'm prone to do that when I'm nervous, or when I'm excited, or just about any time, really. Back in 2021, when I started here at UNM, I would have never imagined I'd be up here speaking at graduation. At my high school graduation, seeing the valedictorian speak and thinking I could never do that. But that's the amazing thing about my time at UNM. Over the last 4 years, I have changed a lot. I've accomplished things worth talking about, and I found courage and faith in myself. That's thanks to a lot of things, including the journalism program, my other classes and experiences at UNM, and the friends and family who have supported me every step of the way. My grandfather immigrated here from Mexico, and I owe so much to him, to the people who came before me, and the people who have surrounded me the experience, stories, and lessons I've learned with and from other people. Without my grandfather moving to Texas, I wouldn't be here. My parents wouldn't have met and given me so much love, support, and wisdom. I wouldn't have my 3 sisters who I call out every major and minor life at the moment to ask advice. We think college is about textbooks and papers, but really it's about people, and my big piece of advice is to listen to them. When someone is helping you, even when they're telling you a hard truth, that's something to learn from. When someone's being terrible to you and you have to draw a boundary and put them on the other side of it, you can learn from that. Everyone that comes through your life leaves you with a lesson, even if it's small. Life is just one big crash course, and you have to keep going, even when it sucker punches you. Over the last few years, I've hoped and worked and reached for a lot of opportunities that I didn't get, and I'm guessing many of my fellow graduates can relate to that. The job market is so rough, y'all. I applied for jobs, internships, and fellowships by the dozen. I had dream jobs and life goals that didn't happen. When disappointments like that happen, you think you'll be devastated and doomed to failure. But I knew I just had to pivot and come up with new plans, new goals, and for every opportunity I didn't get, there was one I did get. It's cliche that for every door that closes, another one opens, but it's true. I've learned that life is going to put you in a place you didn't expect, and maybe it's where you need to be in order to learn the lesson you need to learn. Try not to compare yourself to others too much to others. It will only lead to unhappiness. You will wind up where you are meant to be. For every no you hear, there will be a yes, and that yes can lead to the greatest joys of your life. Let me tell you a funny story about a no that dates all the way back to when I was 5 years old. I don't even remember it, but my parents loved telling the story. I went to pre-K at my church's school, but when my parents applied for me to go to kindergarten there, they said no, because get this, I couldn't read yet at 5 years old. And look where I am now, I read and write for a living. And that's how I wound up at public school. My elementary school is where I learned to read, thank you Mrs. Webb. And it's where in 3rd grade I declared I'd be a writer. My high school had a newspaper, the first one I ever wrote for, and it was where in my junior year I decided that is what journalism is what I would do for the rest of my life. If my parents hadn't been told no when I was 5, I could be doing something completely different now. I could be a nurse or a nun. So don't be distracted by disappointment when one door slams in your face. Be brave and step through the door that does open for you. It'll be okay. All you need is a good support system around you, and this is where I take a moment to thank my support system. First, the most important people in my life, my family. To my parents, you have always made me feel like I could do anything. Thank you so much for always being there and for teaching me that even when the world is sending challenge after challenge your way, be strong, and most importantly, always be kind. Thank you to my sisters for always being my inspirations and always being ready to tell me to get it together. Y'all have kept me sane and moving forward. And thank you for my nephews. My youngest nephew is only 2 weeks old, and the pictures of him have brought me through finals. Thank you to my Aunt Sal and Uncle Manny. I couldn't have made it without you. Your house was a haven, and you're always there when I needed it, from car repairs to full breakdowns over life. To my friends, thank you for dealing with every crash out over classes, work, and guys. You have all made my college career, and there's no way I would be up here without your support. Biggest shout out to my sorority, Chi Omega, which has helped shape me into the woman I am today, and I go for life. To Gwyneth, Bill, and Parker, I cut this part out when you proof it, haha. The very first time I ever met Gwyneth in person was in a class my sophomore year. She calls my name for attendance and then stops and goes, I know you. We had never met before. But over the last 2 years of being taught, working with, and getting to know Gwyneth, I've learned it was a very on-brand first meeting. Gwyneth, you have been my biggest inspiration and one of my biggest supporters, and you are the blueprint for the journalist I want to be. The C&J department and every graduating student here is so lucky to have you in our corners. Okay, now that I'm holding back tears from saying thank you, let me wrap up this speech. I've tried to give what I hope was helpful advice today, but let me give one more. When life looks like it's full of dark clouds, do look for the silver linings. We're all saying a lot of tearful goodbyes this week, but stay focused on not what you're losing, but what you're gaining. You're done with undergraduate, and isn't that amazing? And remember, when that ceremony at the pit gets long tomorrow, you can always sneak in a flask. I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, be proud of how far you've come. I hope what comes next for you is fantastic, even if it is not what we were expecting.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And our next speaker will be Brooklyn Gray. I messed up the order, that's on me. Brooklyn is representing our master's degree recipients. She is from Clovis, New Mexico, and her final project was an art exhibit exploring the representation of Black women. Brooklyn has 2 job offers she's considering right now, but either way, she's staying at UNM. Brooklyn?
A lot of short speakers. All right. There we go, I think that's good. All right, thank you and good morning, everyone. It's an absolute honor to have the chance to speak to you all today. When asked to speak at graduation, my immediate thought was, oh my God, I need a theme. Because of course, that's how every great speech begins. There's an amazing theme, that will draw you all in, it'll hold your attention, and then it'll leave you inspired when I walk away, which is, of course, always my goal when I walk away. Though theme first is the most ideal way to speak to you all today, I was finding that my focus on theme was distracting from the thoughts that I would like to share with you all. So bear with me while I take a different route. When I was accepted into the master's program, I was thrilled. I had so many goals that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to teach, I wanted to attend as many conferences as possible, to conduct research, and to possibly have some of my work published. With all these goals and aspirations in mind, I didn't quite foresee some of the challenges that would present themselves. In my time here at the program at CNJ, I sometimes found it difficult to be fully myself. I found it difficult to allow myself to share my true opinions with my classmates. I found it difficult to share my true thoughts and goals with my professors, and to remain true to why I joined the program in the first place. I joined because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to leave a mark, even if it was a small one, on the department, and I wanted to have a legacy. Pretty quickly into the rigors of grad school, I found myself engulfed by the readings, the papers, and the sleep deprivation. I found myself a bit frustrated by the small academic bubble that I suddenly found myself in. But it was in this drowning and frustration that I found the need that I had for more community, for more vulnerable conversations, and for a deeper understanding of people. I began to seek these needs outside of the academic setting which I found myself in. I began to utilize parts of me that I felt I put on hold for the past year of my life, which were my imagination and my creativity. I reached out to a community that I felt would be able to reignite these aspects of myself that got lost in my academic endeavors. I reached out to a community of Black women in Albuquerque who are artists, florists, business owners, actors, models, dancers, and of course scholars. I asked for their help and participation in my final project for the program, an art exhibit. I asked them to make a creative piece that they felt best represented their experiences as Black women and of Black womanhood. In my conversations with these incredibly talented women, I found that I was also reflecting on what represents me, what brings me joy, what my story is, and what I'm passionate about. It was in these interactions with creative women who are so passionate about their craft that I found my energy reignited. My willingness to share arose again, and my passion for research and writing was more present than ever before. Now, I did say that academia was where I found myself lost and frustrated, but it was also where I found myself. It was where my department allowed me to express myself in the way that I needed to be successful. It was where I found faculty who showed up for me when I needed them to. It was where I found a love for organizing and hosting events that bring the community together, where I found friends who have passionately supported me through it all, and where I found that sometimes it's usually just best to use the brain that God gave me. It was in bringing my passions and childlike aspirations into academia that I finally felt I had a place here. It was in merging what brings me joy in my life outside of school and what brings me joy in academics that I felt I could really be myself in the program. Now, I entered grad school with many goals, and I accomplished most of them, but I found that sometimes the pursuit of these goals distracted me from why I wanted to be in the program, and I had to work myself back to who I am and why I was here. Now, I began by telling you all that I don't have a theme, because I was losing myself in the focus on it, just like I was losing myself in the focus on purely academia. I realized that it's possible that sometimes we don't need a theme. We don't need a theme because it's limiting us to the possibilities that are right outside of it. The possibilities that exist outside of the bubble that you may find yourself in right now. So I encourage you all graduating today, everybody up here, as you prepare to enter a career, to continue your education, or wherever the rest of your life may take you, to not lose track of your story simply because you're focused on the theme, the end goal, or what you want people to perceive of your accomplishments. I encourage you to write your story, and the theme will reveal itself later. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Finally, we will hear from our guest speaker, Trip Jennings. Trip is an award-winning veteran journalist, a parent of a CNJ alum, and a dear friend of mine. Trip?
you know, when I envisioned speaking today, I thought the students would be here. So I'm going to like do this and this. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah. All right. So congratulations. That's really cool. You guys are here. A lot of hard work. Give yourselves a hand. Parents, give yourselves a hand. I am told I must keep this speech short, 10 minutes or under. Anyone who knows me knows it is hard to shut me up, but I will endeavor. And I apologize in advance for any and all obscure cultural references in what follows. I am speaking to you from the past. What I mean to say is, like, where you were sitting today, I was sitting in that long ago times called the 1980s. I came of age when people would stand around fax machines and marvel that a machine would slowly, glacially push out sheets of paper with text you could read. I'm not making this up. I remember my first newspaper job where people would actually go, "My mind is blown." I tell you this because some days I find the world unrecognizable from when I was sitting where you are. There was no social media, no internet, no cell phones. Everybody had landlines, and some were rotary phones. I thought that would get a laugh because my children went to the museum up in Santa Fe, and the thing they loved the most was the rotary phone. And yet, the world, to quote the Talking Heads, is still the same as it ever was. We are not all that different from our long ago ancestors, although our technology is. People will try to make you think otherwise. But we are still bungling about, trying to figure out how best to live with one another in community. And trying to answer the same questions that sages, philosophers, poets, artists, and prophets have been asking forever. Not only how do we live in community, but how do we treat one another day to day? You are entering the world at a time when these questions matter a great deal. Every generation hears it is their turn to change the world and shape the future. I heard it decades ago. But it is truly true for your generation. I apologize. I do not mean to sound as if I am putting too much pressure on you guys. My kids tell me all the time, stop doing that. That would be unfair. But what I mean to say is that some days it does feel as if my generation and those that came before have led us to a point that can seem overwhelming. I remember professors telling me and other students when I was in graduate school in the 1990s that everything would be up for grabs in the 21st century. I did not quite know what they meant. A quarter of a century later, I do. And into this confusing, scary world you walk. However, you do not enter this world unarmed or alone. You possess a truly powerful weapon. Not the internet or artificial intelligence or a smartphone. It is your brain. The miracle of miracles that makes you stop and think to yourself, wait, that doesn't sound right. Or, I never thought of that. Or, I thought I knew all about this person because of the way they voted, or where they live, or the job they do, or how they speak, or how they identify. But they are one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. What? More than ever, the world needs gifted journalists and communicators who say, what? To illustrate my point, I'm going to call attention to a scene from near the end of the first season of Ted Lasso. Has anybody seen Ted Lasso? Maybe some people. Okay. For those of you who have not, Ted Lasso is an American football coach who decides to take a soccer team job in England. And everybody proceeds to make fun of him. So in this scene, Ted is playing this high-stakes game of darts in a pub with a gentleman who does not think to ask if Ted has ever played darts. Turns out, Ted has played a lot of darts. He played darts every Sunday afternoon with his father from age 10 to 16 until his father passed away. Of course, Ted wins in dramatic fashion, but not before quoting the great American poet, Walt Whitman. And those who've seen the show know what I'm about to say. Be curious, not judgmental. After nearly 40 years as a journalist, well, let me back up. Let me say this is easier said than done. After nearly 40 years as a journalist, I find it easy to be judgmental. I've reported on so many terrible stories that the goodness of humanity is always in question for me. A governor went to federal prison for corruption. Politicians stealing money. The 9/11 terror attacks. Someone who poisoned other Americans with anthrax. One person shooting, stabbing, or beating another person to death. All the people who think they know everything they need to know about another person because of what they believe politically, or the religion they belong to, or their lack of religion, or the language they speak, or how they speak, or where they were born, or the color of their skin. It is a daily struggle for me to not give in to being judgmental. And then comes along some TikTok video, or some YouTube video, or some news story that usually involves a person sacrificing something. Their time, their money, even their lives, to help another person. And suddenly, I remember all of the people who have surprised me over the years. With their compassion, their empathy, and their curiosity. Let me be clear. Being curious does not mean that you are a pushover, or that you must give up your values. Nor does it relieve you of the responsibility to call out wrongdoing when you see it. All it means is that your fellow human beings are more complicated and surprising and interesting than their political ideologies, or partisan affiliations, or religions, or their lack of religion, or where they speak, or how they speak, or how they look. It has taken me decades to realize this. After living all over the country, reading hundreds of books, befriending people from all over the world, having thousands of conversations with people who share my convictions and people who do not, I've learned this. In other words, the older I get, and the more I know, I hate to say this, but the more I know how much I don't know. It is humbling. I say this because I'm trying to save you time. But I know from my own life, because my parents used to tell me this all the time, I never listened. You will have to come to this on your own. So welcome to the rest of your life. It is a terrifying and exhilarating time to be alive. It is a terrifying and exhilarating time to be a journalist. It is a terrifying and exhilarating time to be a communicator. But remember, all of us who are seated here and in your lives are with you. You were joined by so many wishing you the best. And we are here to offer you free advice, as I am doing here, even if it's not worth much. And remember that you possess the most powerful weapon known to history. It's your mind. That miracle of miracles, to be curious, to live in wonder, to always be asking questions. Good luck, graduates of 2025. I have very hopes for you and your generation, as do we all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trip. Trip has been a mentor to me for almost 20 years, and I've benefited from so much of his wisdom, so I hope you guys take away a few things. All right, so moving along, flipping, moving along. All right, now I need my real. This is the good stuff. The moment we've all been waiting for, the presentation of degrees. So we are going to start with the degree presentations of our graduate students, and Dr. Jaylyn DeMaria, Director of our graduate program, will present our PhD students with their doctoral degrees, and our master's students with their master's degrees. Each student will be hooded by their dissertation or thesis advisor.
Hello, everyone. It is my great honor to announce the names of our PhD graduates. First is Leon Kim. The title of Leon's dissertation is Everyday Lives in the U.S., an intersectional approach to North Korean women refugees, identities, and experience. Leon will be hooded by their advisor, Dr. Shinsuke Eguchi. Next is Emily Pollard with the dissertation Self-Victimization, Taylor's Version, Contradictory Visual and Textual Rhetorics of U.S. American Normative White Femininity with Taylor Swift's and Swifties' Social Media. Emily will be hooded by their advisor, Dr. Shinsuke Eguchi. Next is Emerson Kai Ruiz. How to talk to the seahorse, communication in transmasculine gestational experiences as told through narrative. And I will be hooded by their advisor, Dr. Shinsuke Eguchi. Next is Andrea Luna Sanchez. Title of their dissertation, Take What Sticks and Toss the Rest, an autoethnographic critique of non-binary gender exploration. And they will be hooded by their advisor, Dr. Shinsuke Eguchi. And last but not least is Ronin She with the dissertation Analyzing Chinese Women's Identity and Position in the Existed Gender System Through Sexualized and Inappropriate Performances in advertisements, and they will be headed by their advisor, Dr. Shinsuke Gucci. Guidance and students. Thank you very much. So next up will be Dr. Evan Ashworth, who will announce the Masters of Arts students.
Thank you, Dr. De Maria, and whoever is shouting at me a moment ago. Welcome, everybody. It is my distinct privilege to first just talk a little bit about our Masters in Communication program. I firmly believe that not only is community and communication etymologically from the same word, but I really see that among our Master's students and our Bachelor's students. I'll be reading off the names of our recipients for the Master's degree in Communication, followed by the name of their project, and then I will announce the name of their advisor who will be hooding them. First is Christopher Apodaca. The title of their project was The Elements of Home Field Advantage in the NFL, and their advisor who will be hooding them is Dr. Jaylin De Maria. Next is Yage Du. The title of her project is She Writes in Red, and her advisor was Dr. Jaylin De Maria. Next is Brooklyn Gray. The title of her project is The Essence of Us, and her advisor is Jaylin De Maria. Next is Mei Jin. The title of her project is Between Two Countries, the Impact of Globalization and Deglobalization in Generation 1.5 Chinese International Students in the U.S. And her advisor was Dr. Cleophas Luneri. And lastly is Brooke Pope, and the title of her project is, quote, I Never Wanted This, Examining Maintenance of White Femininity Within Abortion Stories on TikTok. And her advisor was Dr. Shinsuke Iguchi. Well, thank you to all of our fantastic Masters of Communication recipients. One more round of applause, please. Well, this is a bit awkward because now I'm taking away from your hosting responsibilities because I will remain up here. You have to deal with me a little bit longer because I am proud to now announce the recipients of our BA in Communication. Now, because there are a a lot of you, thank you, I appreciate the assistance, Dr. Lechuga. Some of you have names that I know, and some of you I don't know, because there are a big group of you. So, because these may not be in alphabetical order that is presented here in the program, I will just ask those of you who are seated first in this front row to process over here in front of the table, receive your diploma, at which point I'll announce your name again. So we will start with our first recipient, who is Elizabeth Secor. And now moving on to the second row, I think I'll start with Lily Alexander. Lauren Lifke. Mariah Mackey. Jillian Barkhurst. Patterson Yazdi. Wayne McNabb. Marcella Johnson. And Olivia Farrar. Isabella Kubiak. Brittany Brawley. Michelle Bennett. Irais Guzman Lopez. Connor Courier. Elizabeth Pritchard. Angelique Valdez. Vanessa Mascarenas. Jaden Gentek. Logan Russell. Maya Valencia. Geneva Sandoval Denalo. Zoe Hartwell. Jordan Leidy. Taylor White. James Cooper. Zach Doyle. Alex Bodvarka. Trillium Green. Kiera Montoya. Sydney Alden. Maria Griego. Austin Wright. Benjamin Wiggins. Johnny Ray Chavez. We moved through all of the names, and I'm actually taking all of the names. Whether you have graduated with your bachelor's degree in communication or journalism and mass communication, I'll ask you to come up. Does everybody come up? All right. Can I then ask the audience one more round of applause? Thank you. I will now pass things back to our MC, Gwyneth Gilbert.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again. I'm not Gwyneth, I'm Michael. I just wanted to say it was really amazing to see the energy from you all celebrating our students. We'll have another opportunity to celebrate some more right outside with a small reception. We hope that you can join us. But now it's really the moment we've all been waiting for. It's where we do that thing with the tassel. So, if graduates would mind standing. Great. Now, the tassel should be on the right-hand side. So if you wouldn't mind, in celebration of now your graduation, we take it, move it over to the left, close to your heart. Congratulations.